Turn up the dial, feel the vibe, get ready to ignite. Untold stories in the airways, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild and variety. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the attic, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories, they're talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the group. Untold Radio Network, the secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild member ride. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the Untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
The paranormal, UFOs, monsters, mysteries. You're listening to Talking Weird. And now, from a cabin deep in the Northwoods, your host, Dr. Dean Bertram.
Greetings, all my fellow weirdos and weirdettes. Welcome to Talking Weird on the Untold Radio Network. I'm your host, Dean Bertram, and whether you're watching me live tonight on Facebook or X or YouTube, or watching and listening to the show archived on those sites after its live time, 9 p.m. every Thursday, or listening to the audio-only version of the show, which drops every Friday after the Thursday night live. Thank you. Greetings. I'm so glad you're here and you've decided to join me for tonight. I'm sorry if I sound a little congested or more nasal than usual tonight. I don't know what it is that I never had any problems with allergies when I lived in America for the first 10 or more years, but maybe I've been exposed so much now. This spring, the congestion I have is crazy. Maybe some of you have a cure. Maybe some of you who are used to these kind of northern allergies can drop me a hint or two in the chat. I sure would appreciate it, but I'm not going to let my sinuses and my allergies get me down tonight because I'm so happy. I'm so excited to have the guest back. We've had him on before. He's a multifaceted. He has had a multifaceted career in the entertainment arts worlds. He trained in NYC under the esteemed William Alderson in the Meisner technique. His journey spans stage, film, and visual arts. And he returns to the show to chat about his just-released feature film, The Sasqualogist, which is absolutely fantastic, and it won the Palme d'Or Award at the festival I run, Midwest Weird Fest. Not this last festival, which was the 2026 one, but in 2025 it won that award, and rightfully so. It's amazing. It's available now. It had been on the fest circuit for like the last year. Finally available to watch. We're going to be talking about it tonight. Anybody who listens to or watches this show is going to adore it. It's critics are already hailing it the best Bigfoot movie ever made, and I think it is. It's amazing, and looks at, because not only does it look at the Bigfoot mystery, it looks at the people who are obsessed with the mystery, and it's funny and it's clever, and it's just a heartwarming ride. At any rate, I'm delighted to welcome back to Talking Weird the director and star of The Sasqualogist, Joseph Granda.
Hey,
Greetings.
how are you?
Man, it's good to get to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I guess last time I saw you, I think it was 8 degrees, and I was walking back from the final screening of my film and winning the Palme d'Or. And what was great was learning about what the award was and the history of the man behind it and all that. So that was really cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think as most listeners and viewers of the show know, I'm a massive fan of Raymond A. Palmer. He was probably this state's most important person ever in the sci-fi and the supernatural and the paranormal and the cryptozoological even, because some of the early fate issues touched on those things too. And the Palme d'Or is to kind of recognize the Palmer and his influence and his legacy and remember the man, and also to award excellence in the field today. And your film certainly deserves that, Joseph, as do you. And it was a great joy having you at that fest. You were such a wonderful guest. You got to do the David Lynch Eraserhead retrospective memorial screener for Lynch with me too, because you knew David and you used to be a roommate of his daughter Jennifer.
Yeah. That was it was great that you were showing. It's such a great film. They don't make them like that anymore. So we were roommates for a while up in the Hollywood Hills when I was out there pounding the pavement and trying to get work as an actor, screenwriter, whatever I could do.
Well, now not only are you an actor screenwriter, you're also a director, which is amazing. And I think that's one of the great things about the Sasqualogist, and certainly one of the great things about having you at Midwest Weird Fest and having you introduce it, because the audience are always even more excited when the guest they're introducing appears on the screen. You know what I mean? There's that immediacy. It's not just the director or the writer or producer or whatever. It's the person they get to watch for an hour and a half. So that was a real treat having you there. Yeah.
It was great. And, it was such a great crowd. Like I said before, last year I went to 4 Bigfoot festivals and showed it. I went to 8 film festivals, and hands down, and I've been to hundreds of film festivals throughout my 30-something odd career, and hands down, independently wise, yours, the Midwest Weird Fest, was the best.
Wow.
Just the location, the camaraderie of all that. I've made friends with some of the filmmakers I met there. I still talk to them. Because when you make films at this level, you really need community. You really need to back each other up. And just what it reminded me of? It reminded me of in 1994, I starred in a film called Amongst Friends that was at the Sundance Film Festival, when it was the last year that it really had that independent spirit of bootstrap filmmaking and people who weren't famous and stuff. And that's really the vibe that you get at your film festival, the Midwest Weird Fest.
That I got chills when you told me that. I can't even believe the kindness of your words. It's funny though, speaking about comparisons to Sundance, you were the second person who had a film at Sundance who told me that. Mark Polish, we did a film he directed and wrote maybe a couple of years before we did the Sasqualogist, and he of course was in Twin Falls, Idaho with his brother, and they were a big deal at Sundance. And he said, this town and this festival is what Sundance used to be like when it was still indie and cool. I went, thank you. So
you want to know the irony of that is I live 9 miles east of Boulder, Colorado, and next year that's where the Sundance Film Festival is taking place from now on.
Yeah, that's fascinating that they've moved it. What's the feeling in the industry over there about the move of the festival?
Oh, they're really excited here in Boulder, because they're all going to make a bunch of money renting their homes out for $25,000 for a week.
Oh, I bet.
And it has the same cultural vibe that Sundance did, but I think the people in Sundance just got tired of it.
Yeah, probably. I wonder if I don't even know. Was that why they moved? Because the locals didn't want it there anymore? Or did the festival think Boulder would be better?
I think it had something to do with Robert Redford passing away, and I think I'd been there for 30 years or more, so I think the town was kind of fed up with it.
Huh, that is interesting. The sad thing is I never got to Sundance when it was at its original location. Mind you, I don't think my understanding is the chance of you submitting an independent film to that festival these days and being selected is pretty slim, unless you've already got sales agents and stars or studios or something attached. The cold submission process. I've never known anybody these days who's done a cold submission to Sundance and got into Sundance.
No, it's an industry thing now. So
anyway, let's get to the Sasqualogist, because I know that's what everybody here wants to hear about. And anybody in the chat who has any questions, please do fire them off. We haven't somebody else in the chat saying his brother's a playwright and loves Sundance. He's 74. He probably got there in the good old days that Joseph and Mark Polish have told me about. Would you like me to play the trailer for the Sasqualogist before we start talking about it?
Yeah, that would be good, and people can get an idea of its tone and tenor, and maybe even get a laugh out of it tonight.
Okay, I will. And I ripped this from YouTube just minutes before the show, so the quality should be fine. I bet you the quality on YouTube will be higher. The reason I don't like playing straight from YouTube is often you get staggering. So anybody who's listening to the show now and wants to see the trailer, they're just listening to the audio-only version of the show. I do have a link to the trailer in the show notes as well. So if you go to the show notes, wherever you're watching this or listening to it, you can certainly watch it there as well. There's also links in the show notes, as we'll get to, is where you can watch the full film, as well as where you can visit the website for the Sasqualogist. So now the trailer.
Everybody, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Because when squatching, your ears are more important than your eyes.
What exactly are we looking for?
That. But bigger.
You're the Bigfoot guy.
Something like that.
Wow.
What are you looking at?
That kid.
There it was. Wild man. Poo.
It's black bear.
What? No, it's not. Smell it.
I'm not going to smell it.
Smell it. Why do you hate people?
I don't hate people. I just feel better when they're not around.
If it's just a warm body you want, maybe you should screw that monkey of yours.
It's not a monkey. It's an ape.
I'm on time.
Early is on time. On time is late, and late is never. Is that what you're wearing?
Yeah.
We're not partners. You're my Sherpa.
People should get to know their Sherpas.
That's no Squatch. Squatch smells like ass.
I know what ass smells like.
It's a figure of speech. He's the son of Patty.
Sounds like a conspiracy theory to me.
Yep. That's him.
Bigfoot!
I wish I had a trail cam.
Wouldn't get a good photo anyways.
Why's that?
Bigfoot is blurry.
You're an idiot.
Supernatural forces are keeping you from knowing the truth!
What? You're not going away, are you?
Nope.
You ever think about leaving this place?
I used to think that if you stayed in one place long enough, everything you wanted would eventually come to you. That thing is going to drive you mad.
It's missing 411.
It was a portal to another realm.
No. There's got to be some other explanation.
Has Bigfoot ever killed anyone?
Unfortunately, no.
He's trying to kill us.
Shh.
Would you keep it down?
Well, imagine the data that would bring. Okay, let's go.
You gotta go to school. You gotta go to school to find out the face.
This way.
So great, Joseph.
Thanks.
So I get maybe the best place to jump off the conversation is what made you want to make a feature film about not just Bigfoot, but really about the Bigfoot community and the controversies in the community. It really encapsulates so much. So did you already have an interest in Bigfoot? Were you already aware of the community? Maybe just fill us in how this film came to be.
Listen, my knowledge of Bigfoot was very general, like everybody else, T-shirts and you there?
Yeah, I sure am. I was just giving you the floor. If I disappear, I should have told you I'm just giving you the floor.
Sorry
I figure you'll tell a story for a little bit and they don't need to see my ugly face. They can watch you tell a story.
No, that's fine. No, I'm looking at the camera anyways. Yeah, so what it's really about is, to be frank, my father left when I was 10 years old. And that sort of sets a young man off on a quest to find that sort of replacement and that sort of empty space. And, a lot of my life was sort of filling that space with it. And that's because when you write a film, it should come from something personal, even though it ultimately becomes a universal theme for people of loss and longing. And then I started interviewing squatchers out here in Colorado, and I went out with this very, very mustard seed of an idea. And this guy told me his whole life as I spent the day up in Bailey squatching with him. I mean, I learned everything about him. And at the end of the day, I had this connection that I didn't share at that point. And I said, do you think that maybe you're just out here looking for your old man? And he just thought, wow, like, I never thought of that. And so that's the real genesis and the core of it. It's a film that is the longing for loss. I know that sounds very serious, but it's not. But it's ultimately in this search for Bigfoot and this older expert Sasquatch tracker taking a young protege with him to learn the ways of squatching. Now, the conflict in that is that the older man is very grounded in science, and he's an Aper, and the young kid, he's got a UFO hat, and he's really into the woo. And so that's the general conflict. And throughout that, they have to really find what it is they're looking for, not just in themselves, but in answers to which side of that camp of the Squatch community that they're in. And what I did as I wrote this, and then as I prepared and researched the part, is I really immersed myself with the Bigfoot community, and I read every book you could possibly think of. So when you see the movie, if you know everything about Bigfoot, it's going to be reaffirmed with historical and scientific facts, both on the scientific side and then on the more metaphysical side, because I hung out with both of those camps. And if you don't know anything about Bigfoot, you're going to walk away with a PhD in Sasquatchology.
Yeah, it's a film that really feels like it was made by somebody with an incredible handle and an incredible background in this topic. So you clearly did your homework. Like, if I knew nothing about what you just said, I would assume it was made by somebody and written by somebody who had been a Bigfoot fan from from day one and had been in the community forever, because it really just encapsulates everything. Like you said, when you were, and we'll get to some other aspects, because I want to talk about the casting, I want to talk about the music, I want to talk about all kinds of things, but when you started to get a sense of that type of some of the different approaches or the schism in the Bigfoot community, because I know you're very aware of it, the Bigfoot and the community who are people who are Apers or people who are woo, did you start to feel more of did you lean towards one way or more yourself, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because as I researched it, I vacillated on it. Because as I was writing, I had to sort of reach both sides, because as I met both of these groups, I wanted to be able to be lighthearted but respectful to what people believe about this. Because as you know, some people take this subject very seriously. And listen, there's worse things that people could be doing in today's world than hiking through the forest looking for something that may or may not be there, that may be the ether, or it may be a gigantopithecus. So that was my goal. I didn't initially fall on one way or the other. However, I operate out of a Christian worldview, so that leads me towards miracles and supernatural and things beyond this world that can't be explained. And so I would have to say today that I end up more on the woo side. I would say if a gun were held to my head, I would have to say that it's some sort of demon trickster,
right,
to keep people from going to church on Sunday. That has the ability to sort of come in and out of actual form. That's really where I land, based on some of the people that I interview. That, you know, I talked to a neurosurgeon who was hiking with a buddy 20 miles in Washington State, and there's nothing in it for him to tell me this story. But, you know, they took pictures, I saw them, of these Bigfoot prints that just all of a sudden just end. They just end. Like the thing was just like leaped into the air or something. So, and this guy's not a squatcher. He's not a squatcher today, but he was like, he got a hold of me as I was going through this process. I put the word out that I was doing research on it.
Yeah, I know that a good friend of mine, Joshua Cutchin, and Timothy Renner wrote 2 books a number of years ago, part 1 and part 2, called Where the Footprints End, I think, with the title of those books. They're great books, and they really get into the type of things you're talking about there. I mean, I think I certainly lean into the woo as well, but I lean into the woo. I think I don't normally use the term woo. I lean into the woo because I think many of these things, UFOs, Bigfoot, Virgin Mary, fairies, you know, all of these strange apparitions, spirits that people encounter, there tend to be a commonality through them. And often the commonality is that, you know, somebody sees a UFO and a Bigfoot right next to each other. Sometimes the commonality is just the stories have very similar components, like those books that the Cutchin and Timothy Renner wrote. So I tend to think that all of these things, the lack of physical proof for them, the way they, as you said, footprints disappear in the middle of the field, almost like it is an apparition. It's somehow part of this world. It's somehow not part of this world. And so is everything which is in our mythology, from religious texts through fairy stories. These things come and go and interact with us as they will, and then they're gone. And we never seem to be able to pin down what they are. I think your film does an amazing job, by the way, of and your character in the film, of capturing and demonstrating the type of personality or the type of person who the desire to prove any of these mysteries, and Bigfoot or Sasqualogist just happens to be the Bigfoot research, or Sasqualogist just seems to be is just the heart of this. But I think you could have that character in, you know, you could have that character in ghost hunting, or you could have that character in ufology. Like there's an attraction to these things which we can't quite get a handle of, which sometimes I think drive people's obsession, you know, for decades and decades.
Yeah. And if on that note, when the movie turns out to be successful, there'll be a sequel. In fact, I already know what it's called.
Oh, wow.
You want to hear what I haven't written it?
I'd love to. I didn't know if it was going to be a spoiler.
Successful. And it's not a spoiler, but people who haven't seen it yet, they'll understand when they see the film, because if there's a sequel, it'll be called Sasqualogist 2, Bigfoot in Ohio.
Ah, very nice.
Because the character that I play, Martin Bootser, has a very specific opinion about Ohio.
That'd be fantastic. And incidentally, so have you been following the Ohio news lately? There's been this big Bigfoot furor there in the last couple of months, right?
Yeah. Which is the irony of that is pretty amazing.
You know, it's funny. I made a feature film, which is still in post-production in Ohio. Well, I wrote and produced it and directed. My friend Kerry Pryor directed it, and another very good friend of mine, Stephen Wells, produced it with me. And so I spent some time in Ohio, outside of Cleveland, in a very nice part of the world called Chagrin Falls. It's a beautiful outer suburb of Cleveland. Gorgeous area. One of the prettiest suburbs I've ever been to in my life. But not in a million years would you think there was a Sasquatch anywhere near Chagrin Falls. But I heard from the person who was our editor, who'd grown up in Chagrin Falls and had moved to LA and edited a number of, like, I think, shows, band movies and things. And then he came back to edit our film. He saw a Sasquatch in Chagrin when he was a kid. And this is the weirder part of that story. my friend Kerry wanted to make a documentary about a guy who lived in the kind of poorer outskirts of Chagrin, because Chagrin's a very rich area, in the poorer type I don't even know if it's part of Chagrin or just outside of it. And this man, it was known because I think he told a number of people, had claimed that for years he had Sasquatch visiting his house. And he was feeding them and leaving things for them. And if you go to Chagrin Falls, sure, there's woods and things around it, but you can't. It's not like the Pacific Northwest. It's difficult to believe that there's a population of Bigfoot living there. But people have these encounters, and that again leads a little bit more to the metaphysical. I think that people have Bigfoot encounters in suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope you make that Ohio one, because I'd love to see it.
Colorado.
Sorry, what was that?
There's lots of encounters here in Colorado. I think when they start showing up in New York and LA on the streets, that's when we're really going to be onto something.
Well, it mightn't be too long now. We have a question for you from Horace Smith, who's obviously just watched the trailer. Horace Smith is Professor Emeritus of Physics and Astronomy at Michigan State University. He's a good friend of mine and a good friend of the show, and he's been on the show as a guest in the past. And he asks, was humor a part of the film from its conception?
I wouldn't say humor, but I would say lightheartedness, because the central themes of it, there's some very emotional core parts of this movie, but the central themes are fathers and sons, and that can be very weighty and very heavy. So yes, I surrounded it with characters. Now, the thing about my goal with this movie that I'm so proud of the most is that my goal was to make it look and feel like a classic 1990s independent film, Richard Linklater and people like that. And from the feedback I've gotten and how I feel about it, I know I pulled that off. So when you're going to do a movie with humor, you have to play the humor as drama, and that way it doesn't come across as slapstick. So yeah, I mean, I would say that it wasn't totally, but the lighthearted parts were specifically written that way to sort of bring some levity to the moment. And it's easier to I think to have an open mind about things you might not be into if you're able to laugh your way into it.
Yeah, I think it, and a lot of the comedy is situational in there as well, which is great. But it does make me think about films from the 90s. It also makes me think of Hal Hartley's movie, particularly Hal Hartley's films, particularly your dancing sequence.
Right.
Because Hartley would often have those dance sequences, or he had it in a couple of his movies, and it had that kind of feel to it as well, which was great.
Yeah, and that was improvised. I wrote that, kind of made that up the night before, because I knew that we were going to have time while we waited for the cast to come out to my property. That's where we shot the big dome that you see in it. That's my property. So I said, I've got an idea. And so we put that song on. I grabbed the broom and I just did some of the old vaudeville dancing. And, I've had my time on Broadway and it turned out well. But what really made it work was the song. And the music in this film is from a band in Michigan, which oddly enough is a father and son band called Streaking in Tongues. And you can find them on Apple or Spotify, Streaking in Tongues. So I've been listening to these guys for a while. I love their music. And so I got a hold of him, the lead singer, the dad. I said, listen, I've been listening to your music for a long time. I've paid for all your albums. I would love to put some of your songs in my movie, but I don't have a lot of money. That said, I always insist on paying artists something, anything I can. And I said, I sent him some footage. I said, what do you think? And he came back and he said, you can use as many songs as you want. Just pay me $100 a song. And then so also I said, in a couple months, the soundtrack will come out. And, any money that he makes from that, I'm like, that's all yours. So yeah, music is really important. That was just, the hand of God was all over this movie. If you've been there, there were days where like, oh man, this is great. Maybe. Or you're like, oh, this is terrible. Or is it? And so we just had to keep rolling with it. But I think the most important thing is that everybody that was there at the time had a good time. I think that shows up in the spirit of the movie.
It absolutely does, and that music is fantastic. And that person you were talking to is Ronnie Ferguson.
Yes, Ronnie,
who was a director of a documentary that we played at Midwest Weird Fest a couple of years before you, Bigfoot and Marty.
Yeah,
and
I've seen it.
Yeah, so the funny thing,
actually, the poem that my character reads in the Sasqualogist is Marty's poem. Because I talked to him too, and I said, "Your poem is perfect. Can I use it?" And he was like, "It's all yours."
Fantastic! They're so great. They were great guests as well. And the funny thing is, I don't think you knew that. I don't think you knew they played at Midwest Fest. And even though I was vaguely familiar with their music, when I watched the Sasqualogist and Marty's poetry, I didn't put, two and two together either until I think later you told me. I can't even remember how I found it. I think you told me or something, and I was like, wow. But just so strange. I guess the Bigfoot filmmaking community is a smaller one than we might think.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of Bigfoot films, and that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with yours, although maybe it will going forward. I think it may have a serious impact on the community. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if you've seen it yet or not because it's not widely available. I know it played South by Southwest, but what are your thoughts, or what do you know about capturing Bigfoot, the documentary?
I think it's horseshit. Here's why, and that's not from the point of view of a squatcher or somebody who's well known in the Bigfoot community. Although when this movie gets going, maybe I'll become asked to speak at some of the conferences. Is as a filmmaker, if I had something that explosive, they only showed it once, and they showed it at South by Southwest. Nobody picked the movie up for distribution, and as far as I know today, no one has picked up the distribution for that movie, which to me seems that there's something problematic in what they're claiming. Because if you're a film company and you pick up a film like that, claiming it to be something that ultimately is going to kind of slander some people. I know there was a thing too where they kind of ambushed Bob Gimlin, and when he was in not the greatest state, he's still kicking, but he's an older guy. So I'm very skeptical that they have anything real. If that's really what it was, it would be like proving the Zabruta film was fake or something. I mean, so I highly doubt it.
Okay, that's interesting coming from somebody else in this kind of space. Have you found that since you've finished the film, because now it's actually like it's released, it's and we'll talk about that because it's only been like, I know again it was at festivals for like a year, which is fantastic, but it's only been out for a little over a week now. It's available for the general public, right?
Yeah, it's just so it played at some small theaters around the country last year, along with the festivals. And then right now, we have an exclusive deal with Merkel Films. So you can rent it now or buy it at merkelfilms.com, which is Tony Merkel. He's a podcaster, very successful, good person out of Tennessee who has a podcast called The Confessionals. So he was sort of a background producer on it.
Oh, nice. No, and I have a link again to that. If people are watching or listening to the show, just go to the show notes and you can click right through where you can acquire that film. But now that you're at the distribution point now, it's kind of changed from you being on the circuit and I guess talking at places, Bigfoot friendly places that played it. I'm guessing I would have asked you, are you? But I'm guessing because you're talking about maybe making a sequel, you're still kind of positioning yourself in the Bigfoot space a little bit. You're still keeping in contact with it and what's going on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know if anybody knows Sarah and John Brown of the Bigfoot community. They've got a property in Washington that I've been to. I hung out with them. I still talk to some of those people. Jimmy Tungate, he's a new squatcher out there that's coming around. Because I made friends. I don't have time to go out squatching anymore. I'm in the process of prepping my next film. But yeah, they're a great bunch of people. Good barbecue.
I bet. Can you talk about your next film? Because I'm guessing that isn't the Bigfoot in Ohio or the Sasqualogist in Ohio.
No. That would only do the Bigfoot in Ohio when this movie's a big hit. I'd love to grow a beard again and get to it. But first, on that note, what I would love to do, and that I looked into was, and I had some leads, is I would really love to do a serious drama about Patterson, because it's a whole story. Him seeing that, and him, he took the film and he took it to Hollywood. He tried to get Hollywood to let him have theaters to show it, and then he rented out theaters alone, and then he owed money to the mob. And there's a great story behind all that. But the film I'm working on right now is called Out of the Flatirons, and it's about a struggling dad who's sent off on a hero's journey to reunite his family and save a town that doesn't want him there. There's a big flood in it, but what happens on this journey is that it's not a faith-based movie, but something about, from my faith is that we never talk about is, although they do talk about it in the Bigfoot community and on your show, is the spiritual aspects of the life that's surrounding us constantly in this sort of battle. We like to talk about miracles from the past or demons and stuff, but we oftentimes forget that those things are happening around us all of the time, whether they're actual miracles or mechanical miracles, which are miracles that can be explained, but still they appear as miracles. So is it a miracle just because we can explain it or not? And so he goes on this quest. It's another wilderness adventure along with a giant flood, and it's a much bigger budget. I've got some couple of movie stars that are interested, and it's all about timing and money, and so we'll see.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I know, I can't wait. And I do think that in this reality that so many of us live in, which is, I don't know, get up, clean your teeth, go to work, come home, eat dinner, binge Netflix, go to sleep, get up, clean your teeth, repeat like just, forever, that it's very easy to lose touch with a bigger spiritual reality. And to be honest, I think that's the real value of things like Bigfoot and UFOs and apparitions and other things, is maybe those things are knocking on these kind of, office cells or apartments we live in. They're literally pounding on the doors, saying there's more to this reality than what you were living. And so that's why I think so many of these pursuits are actually healthy in a way, particularly in a society where the mainstream church has often fallen away from its traditional duties of explaining that there's a broader spiritual reality, and not just a spiritual reality, which we know is the most important one, the idea about, the traditional Christian message, which you'll get at most churches of, Christ dying for your sins and these things. Sure, that's important, and the most important, of course. But if we don't talk about a broader spiritual reality in any sense, if we just ignore these other things, people can still just go through life thinking they're living in a very materialistic world and not understand that there are other forces, there are other things acting on this reality. And I think that's the value of a lot of these stranger, what some people might consider stranger pursuits, interest in Bigfoot, interest in UFOs, interest in spirits, that these things tend to point to away and suggest that reality isn't exactly what you think it is.
Yeah, no, I think we get, when we're too focused on the material, we're not able to see the immaterial that's around us, that's helping us. Now, I'm not recommending reaching out for the darker sides of things, because if you search for the dark, it'll certainly more than happy to enter your home and put up shop, as from the shows that you've done. And this spiritual element is in there in the Sasqualogist. There's a very specific conversation. Not only is my character Martin grounded in science, and then the young kid is much more woo, and he's clearly a Christian the way he talks about certain things, and there's some tension there on that, but I don't want to give it away. But I think in the end it's understood by both of them what's going on.
No, that's something else. Talk about that relationship between you and what's the actor's name? I forgot. I used to know. I forgot what.
Brian.
And the character's name would be just
Swartz, his last name. I don't know why his first name is skipping me right now. Hold on.
Sometimes I can look it up.
Brandon. I would call it Brandon Swartz.
Because that's it's such a wonderful juxtaposition and such a wonderful relationship between the two characters in the film. How did you find that young actor, and how did you develop the very there is a great charismatic interaction. There's a great chemistry between the two of you in that movie, in The Sasqualogist.
Yes. So he is such a talented kid. He's written screenplays and he's done his own short films that he's written and directed. And so he was at a film festival, a film event in Florida, and he met these two guys that I had worked with on a TV show I did called Breaking Laws. And they said, you should meet this guy, Joseph. He's looking for a young actor for this film he's getting ready to do. Well, it turns out that Brandon lived in Denver, which is about 20 miles from my house. So they hooked us up, and I had been interviewing other actors and stuff. And so I took him I met him and bought him lunch at In-N-Out Burger. And we were just sitting there just hanging out, eating burgers and talking. And I knew immediately, I'm like, this is the kid. But I still had to put him through the test of, so we auditioned him. I did some scenes with him, and finally I just said, so do you want to be in a movie? He was like, really? And he was great. I really looked for actors that had some theater background, because in my experience, theater actors take it a little bit more seriously, and they usually always know their lines, which is very important when you're doing a low budget film, because you only get one or two, maybe three takes, and then you got to move on. So that was really beneficial. And then there's another guy in the film, Kevin Clayton, who is a stand-up comic. You could probably find his name, Kevin Clayton. He's got a bunch of videos on YouTube. So he plays one of the he has a very important role in the movie that I don't want to give away because it's kind of an Easter egg. And then the girl who plays my girlfriend in the movie, oddly enough, when I went to Jim, who owns the Sasquatch Outpost in Bailey, to ask him, I said, I wrote a part for you in this movie, and I'd love for you to do it, and I'd love to have 4 hours of shooting in your museum. And he read it, and he's like, done, let's do it. So he's in the movie. He's the guy with the cowboy hat. But as I was talking to him, I'm very good with getting people to work with me over foods, because I bought him lunch too. He goes, do you need a woman in her late 30s? I'm like, yeah, kind of, yeah. He goes, I got a girl who works for me at the front desk once a week, and she's an actress. And so there it was, Elijah Fisher, who actually is a children's author and has written a bunch of kids' adventure books about Bigfoot.
Wow.
Yeah, Elijah Fisher.
Well, there you go. And you said the owner of that what was his name? Jim?
Jim, I don't know why his name escapes me. Jim,
that's right.
Yeah. The Sasquatch Outpost in Bailey, Colorado.
Yeah, Flat Rockland also, his real name is Matt Auckland. He's a good friend of the show and mine. He's been on the show too. He lives in the Pacific Northwest. He just wrote, Jim's great, so he obviously knows the owner of that museum as well.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. One thing, and this is more for me than for the audience, it interests me because when I was in Sydney and I hung out with a lot of actors and I dated actors or actresses, and the Meisner technique always seemed fascinating to me. And it's obviously so important to you because it's actually in your bio that you were trained in the Meisner technique. Is that something you can just talk a little bit about for a couple of minutes for my gratification?
Yeah, no. So here's what's interesting is that I studied the Meisner technique with Sanford Meisner briefly, and then William Alderson in New York. And then I also studied the method, and I'll get to that because I used the method more for my own scenes in the film where I was kind of by myself or where I had to be real emotional. So I'll tell you the difference. So I teach acting for kids out here at private schools, and the first and most important thing for an actor is to be a good listener. And the Meisner techniques teaches you to take all of the focus off of yourself and on your partner. And the more present you are, and the more that you can listen to them, the more you can answer them truthfully and spontaneously, which also works really good in a marriage. So that's the basis of that. Now, in the Meisner technique, they train you to not use personal experiences to get to emotional states. They want you to create imaginary circumstances where you can then live in that moment based on an imaginary circumstance. Now, people always think that the method actor is an actor who walks around the set all day long pretending like they're that person. That's just narcissism. The primary difference, and both of these, Meisner and Sasqualogist, knew each other, these two schools of acting. The method actor tells you to use your own personal experiences from your past or pains and use those as the start off point, the sort of ping of the emotion that you're going to use in whatever it is you're doing, whatever work. I went that route because it was more effective to me, because I was making a movie that was sort of about the loss of my father as a young kid. And I was able to get to those things faster, knowing that I would only have a couple of takes to do these things. It's difficult. And it's why you see some actors that use that process. They're out of their minds. I won't name names, but you can find them. They're just, because it really screws you up. In fact, if my wife were here right now, she could attest to that, because it took me about 2 weeks to shed this character off of me and this heavy weight. So I would walk around the house, this sort of little dark black hole floating around the house as I was shedding these emotions off of me. Actually, my wife calls it my artistic temperament. I'm sure some of the people I've worked with too, but artists are artists. You can rub people the wrong way. So as long as you come back and say, I'm sorry. And, but on that note too is, so now when I have that sort of vibe going on, I just say that I'm, to let my wife and my daughter know, it's got nothing to do with them. I just say, I'm walking my black dog. I actually have a tattoo right here of Winston Churchill walking his black dog, because Winston Churchill, his staff during the war would think that they did something wrong. And he would have all this pressure and weight and emotion on him, not only from his past, but from what was going on. And it was sort of a melancholy darkness he would carry around. And so he would just tell them, I'm walking my black dog today, so they could go on about their business and go, we've not done anything wrong. And then ultimately, when you're able to realize that you're walking your black dog and you go, okay, it is me. Everybody knows it's not about them. Once you take the dog for the walk, it just goes away. It comes back, but it goes away for a while.
I'm going to have a follow-up question about acting in a minute, but Matt Auckland, Flat Rockland, just said Jim Myers is his name, and apparently I should have known this. He did used to have a show on the network we're on now, the Untold Radio Network, Sasquatch Outpost. So it's a small world.
Yeah, and his wife Daphne, nice people.
Huh. There you go. So what's it like directing yourself? Like, are there any checks and balances where you have to step back and try to take that, let go of the black dog, or take off that hat for a minute, I'd just love to know your process doing both at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it was really a lot of preparation. So I knew my lines and most everybody else's inside and out. It helped that I had written the script for 8-9 months. So as the leader of the ship, I had to be the most prepared. So one of the things I did is, my first film is a movie. You can rent it for free on Amazon now. You can watch it with all your, actually, this is a family friendly film too. The word shit is in it twice, I think, which you could hear walking to the store. Is that my first assistant director on my first film, Joey Lopez, is a great guy. I had him there with me. So knowing that I was going to have to direct myself, I really went to him because I was confident enough in my skills as an actor to say, listen, just tell me if it needs to be more or less on the next take. And that's kind of what we did. But I found a pretty happy medium. I can watch the film and wish there was things I did differently, but and I just had to trust the process and the people around me, my cinematographer, my second camera, my sound guy, my wife who ran the catering, and just pulling in talent where I saw it, because 80% of directing is in the casting.
Absolutely.
And so I cast this movie really well. I cast it with actors that I worked with before. There's some people in the movie that are not actors, but like the hamburger place, the Hungry Moose Caboose, the woman initially there, they own it, her and her husband. And I said, I'll put you in a movie. Can we shoot here? And we'll eat. Our crew will eat here that day.
She's great too, by the way.
Oh yeah. So that was a blessing. I also, my daughter's in the movie. Of course, she's 3 years older now. She's the girl who works at the Sasquatch outpost that comes in and rolls her eyes at me. And I said, hey, guess what? You're not going to school tomorrow. She goes, why? I go, because you're going to save me $500 and you're going to do this scene. And so,
did she enjoy it?
She's a great kid. Yeah. What's interesting is when you're in this business, people find it interesting, except your kid is like, yeah, that's what my dad does. And then, oh yeah, it's my birthday today. That's my wife. She's watching.
I meant to say happy birthday to you because I knew that as well. Happy birthday to you, Joseph, is from myself as well.
And so on the trailer that you watched, the last two women that come running through, the one in the front, that's my wife. So she saved me $200 that day. Yeah, that's my wife right there commenting. That's my daughter. It was a family affair.
I love it.
I just quickly, all of these things take money. And when somebody gives you their money to make a movie, they're putting a tremendous amount of trust in you. And my producing partner, executive producer on this, Caleb M. Moore, was just he's one of those guys that if he says he's going to do something, he does it. And I presented this script to him and a budget, and basically he said, if you could do it for that much, I'll fund it. And that's exactly what happened. And so, without his financial input and his guidance along the way, he was very good at sort of massaging partnerships that we had to deal with in between distribution and personalities and all that kind of stuff. None of this would have happened. No, it just wouldn't have happened. And so, and I know he's pleased with it. And in fact, he was so pleased with it that when we gave the first cut, he really kind of said, if I gave you more money, can you make it better? And in movies, the answer to that is always yes. And then you got to tell them how you can make it better.
Well, no, I think he placed a good bet on you and your film, man.
Yeah, I hope it makes a ton of money because I'm in debt from it.
That's
the nature of it. I put any money into it, but the time and effort, I've never worked so hard in all my life on anything I've done. And so, Lord willing, should it be his will, this has great success and leads me to other things, along with Caleb and everybody else who's involved in this movie should be very proud of it.
Is that something you're going to do? Forget a minute about, because you're obviously going to, if you make the sequel to the Sasqualogist, will you act and star in future films as well? Like, do you like wearing both of those hats?
I think I might, in this next film, I might play a little role just because I want to, but I don't know that I would do that again. It's really exhausting and emotionally and mentally, and it's a strain on the family. I don't think people, and I don't want to, I don't want to make it sound like I've been to Vietnam, but but it's difficult. To do it well is a lot of work. It's a lot of preparation, and it really grades on you. And I feel confident that I did it right because I gave 110%. And really, that's, I did another interview and they said, what do you hope people get out of your movie? And it's very simple. I hope that you're entertained. Whatever else you get out of it. There's a bunch of Easter eggs in the movie. If you look, there is a Bigfoot in every scene of this movie. You have to look for it. I'm not going to tell you where they are, but he's there. So, yeah.
Well, it's certainly entertaining. I know I was entertained, but I remember how much I loved it the first time I watched it when it was submitted to the festival, and I saw. I knew straight away I would be screening. I need to watch it again now and find the Bigfoot in every single scene or sequence. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, you got to pay for it now, though, Dean.
I know. I've got to go.
My wife wants an Aston Martin, so I got to get going.
Don't we all? Well, it's great you have a supportive family. So, funnily enough, I've been making a documentary, as everybody who watches and listens to the show regularly knows, called "The Man Who Invented Flying Saucers." Now, we must be going into year 4. It's taken a long time, and my daughter appears in it a number of times because just for the fact that I have her with me almost all the time. So she'd be on trips. So I thought, rather than ignore the fact she's here, let's have her in some of the sequences with me. But this last fall through the winter, I made a short narrative film, and I worked with what I had. And my mother was visiting from Australia, and I had my daughter. And I made literally a horror short just with us two and with the creature. But that's and to work with family is a joy. I mean, I've made a number of films in the past which haven't had family. When I was a little kid, of course, I made movies with family, but it's a great joy having your family there. I'm sure you felt that as well, having your daughter in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And your wife catering and things. My mum catered a feature I made in Australia years ago, My Mother and Stepfather. That's what you need when you make an indie film.
My wife's a gem.
She certainly sounds like it. So let's maybe as we're getting towards the end of this, maybe just pitch the film one more time, suggest why people should watch it. I recommend it wholeheartedly. There's no way your film would have won the Palme d'Or at Midwest Weird Fest if it wasn't just a stellar movie, and it is. And I know you say what you want most is just for people to be entertained, but why do you think people should watch The Sasqualogist? There's so much out there to watch.
I think the most important reason to watch it, there's a couple of things. One, it's a true independent film with a small crew, with people who love the subject. It's a film that has something to say that's deeper on a human level, not just about spirituality, the spirit world, or footprints, but it really asks the question: why do we look for things outside of ourselves? And as we're looking for these things outside of ourselves, isn't it really something inside of ourselves that we're trying to find? Because, Sasquatch is sort of the ultimate. He's got it all. He gets to be both anonymous and famous, because I wouldn't wish fame on anybody, especially in this day and age. So not only that, but here's a great thing too about this film is there's so much slop and smut out in the world. This is a movie you can watch with your grandmother and your kids. I've met kids at festivals from 5 to people in their late 70s, early 80s that love this film. It's lighthearted. It moves well. It's got some serious moments. It's not scary it's got a couple scary moments, but there's nobody's getting hacked up with a knife and blood splattered everywhere. It's just a lot of that. Listen, if you're an artist, that's what you're into, that's fine. But I think my calling as a Christian in this business is to try and entertain people, to make them think introspectively about why we are the way we are, what brought us here, where we're going, and to just be entertained and have a laugh. And what I've also found too is people that I've interviewed after the film is there are a lot of questions that they have for me. And there's one very specific question that a lot of people pick up on in this movie, and they ask me, is it this or is it that? And I never answer that question because it can be this or that depending on how you feel about those moments in the movie. So you can purchase or rent this movie at merkelfilms.com, or you can go to my website, which is josephgranda.com, and find out about the other things I'm doing. And you can get links to screen it through there, or the Sasqualogist.com. They'll all lead you back to Rome. But yeah, go out and rent it. Support small films. Support the Midwest Weird Fest. It's a fantastic festival. josephgranda.com. You can get it there and keep in touch with me. In fact, I'll tell you what. The first people that rent the film and send me a screenshot of their purchase to my email at info@joseph.granda.com, or just go to my website. My email's there. The first 3 people, I'll send you a free Sasqualogist hat.
Wow.
There it is right there. There I am in the cartoon form of the Sasqualogist.
That's an amazing deal. Thank you for that, Joseph.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Just for your audience. That's an exclusive, my friend.
That's impressive.
Nowhere else. Because,
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I have a link to all of those sites, except I don't have josephgranda.com, but that's easy for anybody watching, so they can just see how Joseph Granda's name spelt in the title of the show and then add a .com to it. I do have a link to where you can watch it. I do have a link to the Sasqualogist.com, and I do have a link to where people can watch the trailer. And again, I can recommend this film not just because I love it, not just because Joseph's a guest, but because it won the Palme d'Or at Midwest Weird Fest 2025. The fact that it was selected was a victory enough, but then to win that award suggests just how powerful and wonderful a movie this is. And there's the Palme d'Or.
There's the Palme d'Or.
Right there. And
not
very well.
Not to brag, but of the 3 best film awards that we won, best festival, best trophy.
Oh, well, thank you.
Hands down, you know how to do it, my friend.
Man, well, that's very nice of you to say. But again, that if you haven't seen this film, you should. It's only been available now for a week to the general public, unless you got to see it at a very limited theatrical and festival run last year. So go and check the movie out. Again, the links are all there, and I cannot recommend it enough. I'm going to have to show it to my daughter again. I don't think she watched it when I programmed it, so I'm going to have to go and rent it again and show it to my daughter. She'll dig it. She loves Bigfoot stuff, and she's going to love this movie. And as you said, it's totally family friendly.
Yeah, cool.
Well, man, I mean, I think that's it. I want to talk to you more going forward, just about your future projects. When you are ready to do either of them, or when they're done, I want to see them at Midwest Weird Fest. I'd love to get a chance to screen anything from you in the future.
Yeah, I actually have an idea for a little film much like this. That if this bigger one doesn't fall through, that I'm going to do. It's called Social Media Bites. It's about a teenage who turns into a werewolf, not from being bitten, but from using social media.
Fantastic. I'm sure that would have a home at Midwest Weird Fest as well. Well, again, I can't thank you enough for visiting with me tonight, Joseph. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. You're just such a great human being. You were a great guest at the festival. You're an incredible talent. And just thanks for spending the last hour of your life chatting with me and our audience.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks everybody out there for listening. And I hope that you'll go and watch the Sasqualogist. And let's spread it to all your friends, because that's the only way that a small film like this can be successful, is through word of mouth.
Absolutely.
We don't have any more money for marketing.
No, it's so important. It is important to recommend independent art always to your friends, because I think if people are like me, they get sick of so many of the films that come out of Hollywood. They're just, how many Marvel movies can be made? How many franchises can just be reimagined again and again and again? If you want to see independent film, and you want to see films like The Sasqualogist, which you will as soon as you see it, let your friends know as well, because it's word of mouth that really helps everybody who is talented in the independent space, not just letting this film get seen, but giving them motivation and the potential to go forward and make their next project, which after you've seen this film, you'll very much want another one from Joseph. So again, thank you, Joseph, for visiting with me tonight. Thank you, everybody else out there. And until I talk to you, Joseph, which hopefully won't be too far in the distant future, and until I talk to everybody else, which will be same weird time, 9 p.m. Central, same weird network, the Untold Radio Network, next week, please keep it weird.
Thank you.